Greetings, friends and future friends. Today's video is on the Korg Pa5x. Now, what I want to show you today is a function called Recording Studio. And to be honest with you, I think this is going to change the way we produce music with the Korg Pa5x. Now, if you've been following me, you'll see I did a little video here a while ago where I showed you how I use the Korg Pa5x with my DAW system. So what I would do is create a chord change, then play back the style, which plays back the chord change, and then record it with my DAW system at the same time. But doing it that way, I have to manually change the variation changes, the fills, and all that stuff because I got to push that button while I'm recording. Well, with this new system, this thing called Recording Studio, you're going to be able to program variation changes, fills, and all that right into the arrangement. This is really cool stuff. So let's get in the studio and see how those things work. We now have the Korg Pa5x started up. And before we zoom into the screen, I just want to go over a few things. These are the buttons for player 1, and these are the buttons for player 2. And before we get into that screen, there's a couple things I want to show you. All right, let's start up Recording Studio. We push Record Edit, brings us up to this screen. Then we hit Recording Studio, and it brings us up to this screen. Now, one thing or a couple things I want you to look at right away is that all the buttons on the left here, record, are lit up, meaning they're armed and ready to record. The button over here is glowing, that light's glowing saying record, and you're also going to see on player 2 over here that this is glowing red, means that everything's ready to record. Now, here's something I want you to be aware of. Most of the stuff you're going to be doing is going to be pushing the play and stop button on player 2 as the record button. But when you first start out, you're not going to be able to do that. Now, if we go to Record Edit, we can see we have nothing recorded. That's the last icon on the bottom of the screen there. We'll go to Main. Now, let's mute these out because we're not going to record those. If we push the play button on player 2, you're going to see that's recording, but it's not recording the style. When we stop, we go over here, hit Record Edit, and you can actually see it recorded in E minor in the chords because I had pushed down E minor to start with. Now, what you have to do is this. When you're first starting an arrangement like this and you have nothing recorded, you need to make sure that the style and the chord are being recorded. Then you got to, instead of pushing player 2 to start, you need to come over here. Now you go over to player 2 and make sure everything's backed up. Now what you're going to do is you're going to push the play start button on player 1. Then you push the stop button on player 2. Now, you can now see player 2 is green. And if we go to Record Edit, you can see we recorded a style up here, and we also recorded a chord change right there, E minor. But say we want to get rid of that. So we're going to tap on the chord change. We're going to hit delete. We're going to come up here and make sure. Now, this is the variation right here. We have to actually get rid of the whole style. Make sure you click up there, then delete. Now, the whole style is gone. Now what we have to do is make sure we're backed up all the way. We're actually at 1, the first beat of the first measure. We're going to hit record, record. Now it's a little different. So now what we have to do is push player 2's button to start the recording and then push player 1 to start the style. And it's kind of a strange way of doing it, but it works. So I'll push the button on player 2 and then I'll push the button on player 1. Oh, we made a mistake already. Good thing you can see we made the mistake. You can see up here I didn't push the chord. So what we have to do is go to Record Edit again. We're going to go up to this variation. We're going to delete it. And you can see I'm new to this too. So now let's go back to the main. Get player 2's button back to first beat, first measure. Hit record, hit record. Then we're going to hit an E minor. Now we have that E minor going on up there. Now we're going to push player 2's button to record and then hit the style button on player 1, the play button on player 1. 1, 2. And if we go to record edit, you can see we recorded a style, its variation, and the chord change. So there's a few things I want to show you before we actually zoom into the screen and really look at how we can edit this arrangement. First, when you're in this setting, if you push down on player 1, you're going to play the style. And you're going to see that the cursor isn't moving. What you have to do is push down on player 2, and now you can see that the cursor's moving. And then if you go push the return button, it goes back to 0. So that's very important, because sometimes you get confused. You go, I hear it playing, but it's not working. You have to use player 2. Most of the functions will work in player 2. The other thing is, if you go and hold down on the settings button, push down on the settings button, and then work the wheel, you can expand this out. So sometimes you want to see the whole song, and sometimes you want to get down into the nitty-gritty of each beat. You can see that, and it really works great. So push down on the settings button and move the wheel. So one other thing I want to show you is how to move this cursor. Make sure you're in position. If you're hearing beats per minute, that wheel is going to work how many beats per minute, and change that. Make sure you're in position, and then you can move the cursor any way you want. And it basically is going to be moving to each beat. And if we go to settings and we zoom that in, you can even see it better. Go to position, and you can see how it actually goes to each beat, which is really helpful when we go into editing. Okay, a quick review, because this is one thing that'll stop you from getting started. When you first fire up, and you'll notice you don't have anything recorded. We have nothing recorded. You're in the main. The first time you fire this up, when you start, you have your style all ready to go. You have the chord and the style ready to record. You have your chord selected. We have an E minor. Make sure I push down on the E minor. And if we push the player 2 button to record, again, nothing will happen. What we have to do when you first start up is push down on button player 1. Then you push the stop button on player 2. And if we go to record edit, you can see we recorded something. We don't like it, we delete it. We don't like it, we delete it. Now we go back to the main. Now we go back to 0. First beat, first measure. Now it's different. We're going to record. Now what we have to do is we have to push the record button. And if you listen, make sure we get our E minor chord there. I looked up, we don't have the E minor chord, so we have the E minor chord. That's something. We have our E minor all ready to go. Now what you have to do, and listen, when we push down on the record button, you're going to hear it count in 4. Then when we push down on player 1, you're going to see it restarts that count. You'll see up here. It'll start counting off 4, and then when we push player 1, it'll start to count over again, because it's now it's going to start the style. If you just push down on player 2 button, it'll start to record, but it won't start the style. Again, we push down on player 2, and then one beat after that, we just push down on player 1. And now if we go to record edit, you can see we recorded that. So that's very important. Remember, when you first start out, you have to push player 1 button to start, and then after that you push player 2 button and then player 1, if you're recording the style. If you're not recording a style and you're recording something else, you can just push player 2 button, start and stop. All right, one more thing I want to show you before I zoom in. Say we wanted to add something to that. We hit record, and now we have a organ keyboard down here. We have the style and the chord already recorded, so make sure we go back to 1. We're on first measure, first beat. Hit record and start. And if we go back, now I tried to work with overwrite and overdub, and they don't seem to be working, so I'm going to look into that further. But basically, the record and play is working really great. And if we wanted to re-record that, now if we hit record and go back to 1, hit record, and push down on the play button, what we've done is just erase that track. So the record and play, you're going to add something to it if you want to add an organ sound. And I'm going to show you some other things when we zoom in. We now have Recording Studio open, and I have the tracks, style, and chord ready to record. We're at beat 1. We have the E minor up here on top. And we're going to record the style and the chord. And I'm just going to play a E minor with a B and an A. So we're ready to go. We push the player 1 start button. And we push the player 2 stop button, and we just stop. Now we go over here to record edit, and you can see that we now have recorded up here we have the style, and we also recorded a chord sequence. And if we come down here to the chords, you can see that we have a chord sequence recorded in here. Now you can't edit the chord sequence in here like you can do in a normal style. But you can edit this chord sequence. And how you do that is go back to record edit. And if we want to go over to any of these chords, we can tap on them. There's the E minor, there's the A minor, there's the B minor, there is the A minor again, and another E minor. Now, when we tap on it, it brings up this screen, and we can do is say, we want to delete it, we hit delete. And now that's gone. Now, to add a chord, we're going to have to go back to the position because that was on. We can go to position, then bring the cursor over, and we go to 13. And now we can say add. Make sure we're up here on chords. We'll add. Now what it did is it just created a C chord right there. And you can see it's now a C. Now we tap on it. Now we can say, okay, make that an E. Make that an E, and then we're going to go to the minor, make that a minor, and go okay. And now we just made that into an E minor. So now you can actually edit the chord sequence right in here. And that's pretty cool. And all you do is tap on it. We want to change that B minor. We can add or delete it, or we can change it. We can come in here and make it whatever note we want. We can make it a sharp and a flat. And we can also go in from the major, minor, seventh, suspended, diminished, and augmented chords. So we can actually create stuff like that. And we'll go to minor, back to the minor. So this is one way you can edit a chord sequence in this recording studio. Now there's another way to add a chord sequence to a arrangement here. So if we go to record edit, you can see we have nothing recorded. And if we go to chords, you can see there's no chords either, no chord sequence. Go to main. Now what we're going to do is we're going to record, and you can see I have the E minor touched right there. I have it pressed and it's on. But what we can do is tap on this right here and go, and we're going to hit chain the fools and then exit. Now if we go to chords, you're going to see it comes up here. And if we touch the chord sequence, it shows right there. Now, here's the trick. The chord sequence is now loaded to this arrangement. But if we look, it's not being recorded yet. So one of the biggest takeaways that you need from this is to know that when you do add, because we have the chord sequence, we go to chord sequence, it's in here. It's not been recorded yet. So what it's going to do is it's going to record this chord sequence, and then you'll play it back. Because again, we have record edit, there's nothing going on. Chord styles and chords has not been recorded. So we go to main, and we have the chords. Go back to chords again. Make sure I have that clicked on. Yeah, I have the chord sequence up. And I hit main. Now we got everything back to 1. Now we're going to push down on the player 1 button. Now, I wanted to show you 2 things in this example. If we now go to record edit, you can see that now that chord sequence that we put into that, I didn't push any keys at all. I just pushed down right here and away it went. And the other thing that was funny is if we go here and I bring this down, you're going to see that that style repeated, and it also repeated the chord sequence. So theoretically, we actually created 2 verses here, or 2 arrangements. So actually this song now is 24 measures long, and the chord arrangement goes that way. So 2 very important things to take away from this. 1, when you bring a chord sequence in, just because you bring it in and there it is, and you come over here to chords, that doesn't mean it's automatically put into that arrangement. You have to go back and then record it. So in other words, you go back here and then you record that. Push record right here and then record it. And then that chord sequence will be attached like it is right here to that style. Now there's another thing I want you to look at because it's a little bit different from just recording like we did. And we'll hit here and we're going to delete all these. Now we have no chord sequence in there. And if we go to chords, so the sequence is still showing. So if we go back to the main and we hit record and we go back to this chord, and if I start to hit record again, go back to 1, hit record, what it's going to do, because we know we have no chord sequence. So go back to the main, we'll record, and we hit record. So right there, you can see it recorded that chord sequence that we have in there. Now we'll go back here and delete this again. Delete. And let's go back to the chords. Now if we turn this off, and actually we gotta go back to record edit, make sure that's all off, and we gotta make sure we go back to 1 and go back to chords. And we can see there's no chords. So what this is telling you is there's 9 measures there, but there's no chords. So what does that mean? We can look up here and we can see no chords. So now if we went back to the main and went record, and we go to record and everything's looking good, and we push down on player 2, go to record edit, and you're going to see that nothing happened in the chords. It says NC, which means no chords. So what that means, the takeaway from that is that when you do load a chord sequence, or when you take and say you recorded a chord sequence, and the chord sequence is up there, when you go to chords, if you see a chord sequence in here, and you go back and record, because here's what your problem is going to be. If there's a chord sequence in here and it's lit up, and you go back to the main and you record that sequence, this is going to record the chord sequence and not what you're playing. So that is one thing you got to remember, because again, we can go back here and make sure we're on 1, hit record, go over here, we're going to add the style, chain the fulls, exit, go over here to chords. Now, the way this thing is set up, if I hit that record button, nothing should happen. It's not until I push this and bring that chord sequence up. Then we hit record. And there you go. And if we go to record edit, you can see that we've recorded. Actually, we can zoom in here a little bit because we're not so far out. You can see what we have here. Go position. And now you can see that on this chord sequence is now recorded in there. So that's one thing you got to understand. Now, being that chord sequence is in there, we go to chords. Being it's in here, we turn this off, you're going to see that something's going to still stay here. And that's because you have actually recorded a chord sequence. So if you go back to chords, this is now showing you what you recorded. So when you see this lit up like a normal chord sequence or icons show, that means there is no chord sequence. Because if we go back and go to record sequence and erase this, go delete, 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 delete. Now what's going to probably happen is it's still going to show it. But if we go to main, record, and we see no chord up here, now what's going to happen is we're going to hit record and everything's cool. Now if we go to chords, so now you can see we have no chord sequence in that arrangement. And if we go to chords, you can see it says NC. Now if we go back to main, we go to record, we go here, we go chain the fulls, exit. Now what we're going to do is go over here to chords. You can see now that this icon's changed. It doesn't have just NC and nothing up here. Now it has this thing. Chain of fulls is up there. And then to record that, we push this. Now, this sequence, you can see that this is lit up. You know, and if we hit the record button, now it's there. And you can see it goes away. Because now it's showing you what you recorded. Okay, to recap. To add a chord sequence that you already recorded, you come over here, you tap on that chord sequence, you find it, you exit, you come out of it. Then what you got to do is hit record, make sure you're on 1, and then record it. If you look at these chords, you're going to see that chord sequence comes up. Another side note, you can't select any of these icons below when you're recording. I can go to any of these and record. If I want to go there and record, I can record, bring up this chord sequence, or I can go to the main and record. But once you select this icon down here, that's it. You can't change it once you start recording. So now I want to show you how to change this variation, how we can alter that. Now one thing, a little side note, when you're tapping on these things, look down in here because you don't want to be changing something that you don't want to change. If you tap there, you're going to see that's now a chord. If you tap here, that's the style. And you tap there, that's the variation. So we're going to tap on that middle right there. There's the variation. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to say add. Now you can see we have variation here. And now we have variation 1 here. And being we have that highlighted, we can now change that to 3. And then we're going to come back over here. Let's move our cursor. That's variation 3. Now we go back to position. Then we're going to come down here to this 9th measure. And we're going to add another variation. And we're going to make that 1 again. So now when we back this up, we're going to hear the variation changes. really cool. But we can go even further than that. So we'll go here and we're going to bring that. Let's bring our, go back to positions. See, I made a mistake already. Click on that, go over to here, and we wanted that to be variation 1. You have to be careful. These screens, you touch something, make sure you're adjusting what you want to adjust. So click back to position. Now let's go over here to 4. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on the variation, and we're going to add, and we're going to add fill 3. Now we got a fill in there. So what's that going to sound like? And we could also go over to, let's go over, make sure we're on position, go over here, and we're going to click on it up here and add, and we'll make that variation 2, or fill 2. Now, if we play it back, we have variation 1. And that's how you can change with variations and fills. And we can actually put a break in there. If we put a break, let's put a break right here and go break. Now what happens? If we go back, hit our position, go back to our position. Now you can see what happened is it went to the break. So what I could do is come over here, bring my position, bring my cursor over here, and go add, and bring variation 1. So now if we go back to position, and we bring this, and we go. And now, in this line right here, you can change these. If we expand it up a little bit, you can expand these things. And when we go to break, we can actually look down here in the length. So I zoomed in a little bit because I wanted to show you also that this doesn't just mean for every measure. You know, we changed and brought those fills in on every measure. We can actually go, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the first beat of the 5th measure. We can actually come up to the 3rd beat of that 4th measure, go over there, and now we have this highlighted, and what we can do is add, and we'll put a fill in there. And we put a fill. Now we have a fill that's actually 2 beats before. So if we played it back, so you can see how that works. Let's back this out a little bit. So if we go to position again and we come back here and we go right to there, you can see now that's going to play 2 beats before the measure. The takeaway from this, you can add variations and fills and breaks to each beat of this arranger, a scale up on top. Each measure has 4 beats, and you can actually assign each one of these beats a different variation or different fill. All right, I'm going to load up an arrangement I saved because we can go up here and we can save the arrangements. I'll load the one I saved called Chain the Fools, exit. And if we go to record edit, and if I zoom down, you can see this is an arrangement I created. Now, we talked about up here where you can use the variations and fills and how to add them, the chord changes. But down here, let's go to position 1. Let's zoom in a little bit. Now, this is brass fall. Now, if I click on that, you click over here, you're going to see 3. Got to go to 4. Now that's 4. If I click on that, 4. Now it's going to say brass fall pad 4. Now if I delete that, it goes away. Now, you're going to say, no, it didn't. It's there. It really went away because now we're at measure 9. This is one thing that these pads do. So if I delete this, it's going to go over there to pad 13. Watch. See, now we jump to pad 13. Pad 9 is gone, but pad 13 is there. So let's go back to position. Where we are is our position. Back to 9. Let's go back to 1. And we could go here to 4. Make sure we're at 4. Make sure that's 4 and add. And now we added that brass fall. And if we make sure we're on position right here, and we go to 9, where's 9? And we can also add that. So adding the pads is pretty easy, and you can bring them in depending on the length of your pad. The pads I'm working with are all 4 beats, so they're one measure, so they fit in there nice. And that's basically the way it looks. And then what will happen is you'll have an arrangement that looks like this. Then all you do is you can go save ARG, chain the fulls, go save, yes, exists, and boom, we've just saved an arrangement. Now you can bring that arrangement up any other time. Now there's another last thing I want to talk to you about, because this video is going to be pretty long, is you can also export this out as an arrangement as a MIDI song. And we're going to talk about that later. So I was just finishing up thinking I'm done, and I thought, you know, I never played this arrangement for you guys. And what I'm going to do is I want to show you some things about this arrangement. Now, little side note, you know, all this stuff on the bottom. Now, we talked about the main, we talked about chords and the keys. That's basic PA5 stuff. And the pads, same PA5X stuff, scale tuning. And I want you to also think about it too, because in this arrangement that I created, you also have all the complexity of everything else you have in the PA5X. So if we go to the mixer, we can actually mix. You can see this is on style. So even though this style is recorded in the arranger, you can still adjust things in that style, you know, and actually you can go even further than that. You can create the main, you can change parts, you can EQ it, you know, you can insert an effect, master effects, all this stuff, tuning, finalizer. Where I'm going with all this is that when you create this arrangement, you have all the functionality of the PA5X still in this arrangement. This style that you had, hey, maybe you recorded it one way for playing it somewhere else, but in this arrangement you want it to be this, you can still make that adjustment. You can go down here to the mixer and you can say, hey, I want a little more bass now or a little more drums. There's a lot of things you can do with this mixer, or the pads. You know, you go down here and hit the pads. Now I got the pads up cranking pretty good. I want to bring this pad down a little bit, you know, a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Come on, buddy. We'll go to 1, 1, 1, 0. Okay. I got the pads cranking a little bit because I want you to hear them in this arrangement. But I want you to really realize that this is really something that I think is going to change the way we use the PA5X. I mean, my goodness, you can add your variations, you can add your chord changes, you can add pads, and this right here is the groundworks for a lot of songs that you can take. And now, for me, I'm going to record everything right here, and then all I have to do is transfer it into my DAW system, and then if I have a guitar player or a bass player or anything, I can actually eliminate that if I want to add a real musician somewhere along that line. But I got the basis of a song going on right here. Now, I'm going to play this for you, and, you know, it's probably going to be a little bit loud on the pads, but I wanted you to hear. And watch when the cursor goes over these pads. Okay, so let's start it. Now, I just did this for a tutorial, so I didn't put an ending on it, but I probably could have put an ending on it somewhere. You know, hey, you know what? Let's do something here. Let's actually do that. Let's go, you know, my goodness, hey, this is a tutorial and we're going to learn. So let's do that. Let's go over here and let's eliminate the piano. Get rid of that piano part, and we'll delete that. And then we'll let's magnify this up a little bit. And then where are we at? We're at 24. Let's get rid of the guitar, this one too. Delete that. Delete that. And then let's go to, where are we at again? We're at 24. We'll go to 23. And we'll click on this variation. And we'll add. And let's put ending. Put the ending 2 in there. Now, let's see. We'll back it up. We won't go the whole way. But now let's go put an ending on that. See, you got to remember, I'm telling you what to do, and I'm doing the opposite. We got to make sure we're off of that, and we're back to position. And let's bring this up to that A minor, where it went into that A minor, and see what happens. Oh, you know what we did? You see where we messed up? We made that ending too long. So let's go back. Let's go back. What we got to do is change this to ending 1, because ending 2 I think is 2 measures. We'll make that ending 1 or ending 3. Okay, now let's go back to position. Bring this back and go. Did you see what we just did? My friends, was that not cool or what? We just added an ending. Now, that was a great lesson for us because we know that ending 1 and ending 2 are longer. I think ending 1 is actually probably could be up to 4 measures. Ending 2 is probably at least 8 measures. But ending 3 was 4 measures, and we put that, you know what, I'm sorry if this video gets a little long. We're back. We're going to play that again because I think that was just so cool what we just did, you know. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's go down there and put, let's go down here to 4. Go to 4 and add. Let's see if that brass hit. Let's just see what that sounds like. Go back to thing. Let's go back here and we'll play it. Now, was that not cool or what? So, there you go. I hope you like this. And then back again to settings, bring this down. And now we actually got a complete arrangement. We have a, you know, we could actually went back and put a beginning in this if we wanted to. But I want to keep this video short. So, there you go. That's the arrangement I created. And then again, all we'd have to do is go up here, hit save arrangement, save it. And now it's going to have all the save. Now it's going to have all the changes that we saved. So I think you have enough information now on how to use this recording studio. There's a lot to it. What I suggest is just open it up and play with it for a while and you'll learn. But I think I gave you the basics. You can get started. And let me tell you, I think when you look at how this is laid out, I mean, for me, I would, especially when it talks about creating these variations and pads, if I went to record this, I can actually record this right into my DAW system and not have to push any buttons. This is really cool stuff. So I hope this video helps you on how to use the recording studio. I think it's going to be a real game changer. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You help us grow the channel. That way we can bring you more cool stuff. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.